It was a small funeral. Just a few friends, some distant family members, and a casket that held no body. Only secrets. Rain fell lightly as the priest spoke, but no one really listened. They were too caught up in the scandal, the shame, the relief. Claire Whitmore was dead, or so they thought. Behind the trees, dressed in black and hidden beneath a hood, a woman watched. Her breathing was steady. Her eyes didn't blink. This wasn't grief. It was the beginning of something. A resurrection, wrapped in silence. 8 years. That's how long they believed she was gone. 8 years since her name vanished from headlines, since her face was on every news channel. 8 years since Ethan Cole walked free, his sins buried beneath charm and money. But Claire had never died. She had vanished, yes, burned every bridge, erased every trace, disappeared like smoke. Because to destroy a man like Ethan, you couldn't fight as Claire Whitmore. You had to become someone else entirely, and now she was back. Not to forgive, not to heal, to make them pay, every last one. Don't just watch. Be part of stories that cut deep. Subscribe now and turn on the bell, because what you're about to hear no one else is telling. These are the secrets, the scars, the second chances. Join us before the next truth disappears too. This is your place. Before the fire, before the headlines, Claire Whitmore was the kind of woman people admired quietly. She wasn't loud. She didn't seek attention. But when she painted, the world seemed to stop breathing. Her studio, a cramped sunlit room above a coffee shop in Asheville, was filled with canvases that spoke of longing, freedom, and pain. People said she had an old soul. She just said she was tired of pretending. She'd grown up fast. Her mother had left when Claire was 12, leaving her and her younger sister, Emily, in the hands of a father who loved structure more than affection. Claire became protector, provider, and therapist for a girl who needed more than she could give. Art was her escape. It was the one place she didn't have to be strong for anyone. She dreamed of opening her own gallery, nothing fancy, just a space where people like her could breathe. Then Ethan Cole happened. He wasn't her type, too smooth, too polished, but he listened. He made her feel seen. For the first time, someone admired her not just for her art, but for the chaos inside her. He told her she was brilliant. He said they were meant to build something together, and she believed him. It wasn't love at first sight. It was slower, more dangerous. The kind of love that wraps itself around your ribs until you can't tell where it ends and you begin. He encouraged her to grow, to take risks. He even helped fund her first gallery showing. He met Emily, gained her trust, became family. But underneath the compliments were questions. Beneath the support, control. He started deciding who she should meet, what paintings she should display, how often she should talk to her sister. And Claire, so desperate to hold on to this rare kind of devotion, ignored the knots in her stomach. The truth is, Claire didn't fall in love with Ethan. She fell in love with the version of herself she saw reflected in his eyes. And that's exactly how he broke her. Because once he had her, her trust, her work, her soul, he didn't need to love her anymore. He just needed her gone. Claire had always known that success for someone like her wouldn't come easy. She wasn't from money. She didn't have connections. All she had were her hands, her vision, and a stubborn belief that beauty could still matter in a broken world. For years, she painted in silence, submitting her work to galleries that never responded, but she never stopped. Then came the letter. A respected gallery in Chicago had discovered her work through a small online exhibit. They wanted to showcase her collection. It wasn't just a dream. It was validation, a real shot. She read the email over and over, her hands trembling, her chest tight with disbelief. When she told Ethan, he smiled wide, pulled her into his arms, and said all the right things. "You deserve this. I'm so proud of you. We'll go together." But behind the warmth, something flickered in his eyes, something cold. In the weeks that followed, Claire poured herself into the project. She barely slept. Her studio overflowed with color and emotion. Emily helped where she could, organizing, framing, cheering her on. It felt like the start of everything she'd fought for, her voice finally being heard. Ethan, at first, played the supportive partner. He handled the logistics, spoke to gallery reps, even helped draft the contracts. But slowly, he began to take over. He insisted on reviewing her email correspondence. He told her certain pieces were too raw, not marketable enough. He questioned her pricing, her messaging, even her title choices. "You need to think professionally, Claire. This is a business now," she pushed back gently. But every time she did, he'd pull away, emotionally, physically, sometimes for days, until she apologized, until she agreed. Then came the suggestion she didn't see coming. "Let me manage the finances," he said one night casually. "Just until this show gets off the ground. You need to focus on your art, not stress about numbers." Claire hesitated. But Ethan had always been so organized, so composed. He made things happen. And she just wanted to paint. She handed over access. That was the moment it all started to unravel. But she didn't know it yet. She still believed he was on her side, still believed that love meant trust, still believed the future she dreamed of was waiting for her on that gallery wall. It wasn't. What was waiting for her was silence, cold, calculated, and final. The night before the gallery opening, Claire stood in front of her favorite piece, an abstract storm of reds and golds that she called unspoken. It was raw, honest, the kind of piece that scared her to show. But she did, because for the first time, she felt worthy. She didn't notice Ethan's tension that night, or maybe she did and ignored it. He was quieter than usual, sipping his whiskey while watching her from across the room. His smile didn't reach his eyes. Still, she kissed his cheek and whispered, "Thank you for believing in me." The next morning, everything fell apart. Claire arrived at the gallery only to be met by two uniformed officers. She laughed, confused, until they said her name, full name, Claire Elise Whitmore. She froze. In front of the gallery owner, the press, and the crowd gathering for her big day, she was handcuffed and read her rights. Charges, embezzlement, fraud, money laundering. They said she had stolen from the gallery, falsified donation records, transferred thousands into a private account, but Claire didn't even know the account number they claimed was hers. In the interrogation room, her voice cracked from explaining the same thing over and over. "I didn't do this. You have the wrong person. It's a mistake." But the evidence said otherwise. Bank transfers in her name, emails from her address, even phone calls traced back to her number. Ethan never came. Emily wasn't allowed to see her. The lawyers said the case was airtight. She spent 4 months in county jail before her father bailed her out, silent, disgusted. He never asked if she was guilty. He just told her to get her life together. When she got home, her studio had been cleared out, her paintings gone, her reputation destroyed. People crossed the street to avoid her. The gallery issued a public statement condemning her. Online, strangers called her a thief, a con artist. Her name was poison. Emily tried to help, but Claire barely spoke. She didn't eat, she didn't paint. The silence that once gave her peace now swallowed her whole. What hurt the most wasn't the betrayal. It was the knowing, deep in her gut, that Ethan had done this, and no one believed her. He had taken everything, her art, her name, her voice, but not her mind, not yet. The walls of the psychiatric ward were soft, padded, like the world had decided she needed cushioning from herself. Claire had never thought she'd end up here. But after the overdose, 2 bottles of sleeping pills, and a shattered wine glass, she didn't get a choice. She didn't speak for the first week. The doctors tried, gently at first, then clinically. Therapists with kind eyes and firm voices. "Tell us what you're feeling, Claire." "You're safe now, Claire." But Claire didn't feel safe. She felt like she was trapped in a life she hadn't chosen, inside a body that no longer belonged to her. Every breath felt borrowed. Every blink a betrayal. Emily visited twice. sat beside her, cried, begged, but Claire couldn't look at her, couldn't stand the disappointment in her sister's voice, even when she swore she didn't blame her. Because Claire did. She blamed herself for trusting Ethan, for being blind, for dreaming too big. She blamed herself for everything until Nina Harper walked in. Nina wasn't like the others. She didn't wear the same mask of professional sympathy. She had a limp, a faded scar across her wrist, and a voice that held no judgment. She brought Claire tea instead of medication, books instead of lectures. "Read this," Nina said one afternoon, dropping a battered novel on Claire's lap. "It saved my life once." Claire didn't answer, but she read, then another and another. Slowly, Nina began to ask questions, not about what happened, but about who Claire used to be. What was your favorite color to paint with? What did it feel like the first time someone paid for your work? Questions that reached past the shame, past the silence. And one night, Claire finally answered. "I used to feel alive when I painted." "Then paint again," Nina said, "even if it's just with your fingers, even if it's just on the wall." And she did. At first it was small, scratches in the journal, shapes traced in the condensation of her window. But then came charcoal, watercolors, then a brush. That's when the idea began. It started as a whisper in the back of her mind. Not revenge. No, not yet. Just an escape. A way out. She told Nina everything. About Ethan, the setup, the betrayal. Nina didn't flinch. She just listened. And when Claire said, "I need to disappear," Nina nodded. "I know someone who can help." The plan was simple, but dangerous. Claire would fake her death. A car accident. A fire. Something messy enough to leave no clear remains. Nina connected her to a woman named Grace, who specialized in clean exits for women running from violent pasts. Claire sold what little she had, transferred the last of her money through burner accounts. Set the stage. Then, one cold December night, she drove her car off a cliff, left the doors open, the gas tank leaking, and walked away into the woods with only a bag and a new identity in her pocket. They found the wreckage 2 days later. Inside, a burnt purse with her ID, charred remains that couldn't be identified, and enough history of emotional instability to make it all believable. Claire Whitmore was declared dead. The world moved on. And Claire became no one. She lived off the grid, moving from town to town. She cleaned motel rooms under a false name, waitressed in places no one asked questions, read everything she could about psychology, criminal law, digital security. She studied people, how they lied, how they manipulated, how they destroyed. Every night she replayed Ethan's face in her mind, not just his betrayal but his indifference, the way he never even called, never asked. He thought he'd won. She let him believe that, because revenge wasn't a scream. It was a seed. It needed time and silence and patience. 8 years later, it was ready to bloom. If this story is stirring something inside you, memories, questions, a truth you've buried, take a moment. Like this video, leave a comment. Your voice matters here. You're not alone in what you've felt or feared or lost. Let's turn silence into connection. One story, one heart, one truth at a time. In a dusty apartment above a pawn shop in New Mexico, Claire Whitmore ceased to exist. She became Elena Brooks, a name pulled from a library book she once loved. A quiet, soft-spoken woman who minded her business and paid in cash. It was a life of invisibility, and for a long time, Claire told herself it was enough. She was free. No more whispers, no more headlines, no more Ethan. But freedom, she learned, was a poor replacement for justice. She worked nights cleaning offices, studied by day, cybersecurity, law, behavioral psychology. She learned how people hid things, money, secrets, crimes. She joined forums under aliases, connected with women who had survived men like Ethan. Some were broken, some were angry, some had moved on. Claire didn't want to move on. She wanted the truth to matter. Then one evening, while scrolling through news articles in a library, she saw his face. Ethan Cole, smiling, running for office, successful entrepreneur, community advocate, survivor of personal tragedy. He used her. Again, her death was his clean slate. He'd rewritten the story, cast himself as the grieving partner left behind by a fragile, unstable artist who couldn't handle success. He built a career on it. Claire felt her hands go numb. The page blurred. That night, she stood in front of the mirror and looked at Elena Brooks, safe, untouched, useless. She took a deep breath and asked the question she had avoided for 8 years. What was the point of surviving if I don't do something with it? The next day, she cut her hair, dyed it, bought a phone under a fake name, re-entered the digital world. Slowly, quietly, she began compiling everything. Old emails she'd archived before disappearing, financial records, backups of her gallery files, even handwritten notes Ethan had left her during their relationship. All of it was evidence now, threads of a story no one had listened to the first time, but she wouldn't tell it as Claire. Claire had been silenced. So she created someone else, Kate Larkin, an independent art investor with an eye for emerging talent. She built a portfolio, a website, a history. Slowly, she re-entered the art world under this new identity, gaining trust, gaining access. And once she was close enough to see Ethan again, not through photos, but in person, something inside her clicked. She didn't want to kill him. She wanted to unmake him, the way he'd unmade her. Kate Larkin arrived in Boston with a clean resume, a fabricated past, and eyes that saw everything. Her goal wasn't just to destroy Ethan Cole. It was to dismantle the world that protected him, the one that let a man with blood on his hands rise to power without ever being questioned. She couldn't charge through the front door. She had to be invited in. So she began at the edges, small galleries, charity auctions, corporate collections. She bought modest pieces with strategic visibility, spoke just enough to be remembered, dressed well but not flashy. Always watching, always listening. It didn't take long before someone mentioned Ethan's foundation, a real advocate for the arts, they said, especially after what happened with his late partner. The lie made her stomach turn. She smiled. I'd love to meet him. The introduction came through a gallery in Cambridge. Claire, Kate, played it perfectly. She wore navy, not black. Hair pulled back, minimal makeup, cool, polished, unimposing. Ethan greeted her with that same signature warmth, the politician's charm. If he recognized her, he didn't show it. He shook her hand. Pleasure to meet you, Miss Larkin. She squeezed his fingers just a little too hard. Likewise, from that moment she was in. Over the next few months, she positioned herself as an investor, then a donor. She offered support to one of his foundation's programs. He offered lunch. They laughed. They shared ideas. And every time she left his presence, she felt the weight of memory, his voice, his betrayal, the look on his face when she was arrested. He had no idea. She kept her emotions caged, focused. Every word she spoke, every move she made was measured. She recorded conversations, took screenshots of emails, downloaded files from internal networks. She wasn't just collecting evidence, she was building a narrative, one that could dismantle his empire from the inside. The hardest part wasn't the lies. It was the moments in between, when Ethan spoke about regret, when he brought up Claire with that mournful tone, as if he had loved her, as if he had suffered. It made her want to scream, to grab him by the collar and force him to say her name, her real name, to admit what he did. But that wasn't justice, that was impulse. And Claire Whitmore had died for a reason. Kate Larkin had come to finish what she started. The deeper she went, the closer she got to the truth, and the more dangerous everything became. Kate Larkin wasn't just Ethan's associate anymore. She was invited into meetings, private events, even dinners with his closest allies. Every room she entered carried new layers of deception. These weren't just businessmen, they were architects of Ethan's success. the same ones who likely helped cover up what he did to Claire all those years ago. One of them was Ryan Marks. He hadn't changed much. Older maybe, but still smug, still full of that same hollow charm he used when he was Claire's supposed friend. He had testified against her, claimed she'd siphoned money behind Ethan's back. Now he ran Ethan's art acquisitions division. She shook his hand too, smiled, watched his eyes. He didn't recognize her. Or maybe he did, and refused to believe the ghost standing before him was real. Kate's plan accelerated. She planted spyware in office computers, cloned hard drives, tapped into financial records that revealed what she already suspected. Ethan's foundation wasn't just laundering money, it was erasing people, discrediting victims, silencing whistleblowers. She had proof now, but proof wasn't enough. She needed one final piece, a confession. That's when everything almost fell apart. It started with Emily. She hadn't seen her sister in 8 years, but one afternoon, as she was leaving a gallery, Claire felt it before she saw it. Eyes on her. A presence. She turned, and there she was, Emily, older, wiser, but still Emily. Their eyes met, and Claire felt her world collapse. Emily's lips parted in disbelief. Claire froze. The word felt like thunder. She pulled Emily into a side alley, heart racing. "Don't say that name," she whispered. "Not here." Emily stared at her like she was staring at a miracle or a nightmare. "You're alive. Why didn't you?" "There wasn't time. I needed to disappear. You have to understand." Tears blurred her sister's eyes. "I thought you were dead." "I had to be." They spent an hour in Claire's car, parked under a bridge, where Claire told her everything. What Ethan had done, what she'd built, what she was about to do. Emily begged her to stop. "You don't have to do this. You're not her anymore. You're not vengeance." Claire looked away. "I'm not doing this just for me." Emily's silence was painful. "Then, finally, then finish it. But after that, come home." Claire nodded once. She didn't know if she could, but she wanted to. The night of the gala arrived like thunder. Ethan's foundation was celebrating a decade of impact. A black tie event held in a glass-walled hall overlooking the harbour. Politicians, journalists, CEOs, everyone who mattered was there, including Kate Larkin. She moved through the crowd like smoke, calm, invisible, dangerous. She had already sent anonymous tips to investigative reporters, had mailed hard drives to federal investigators under false return addresses. What happened tonight wasn't about gathering evidence. It was about the moment, the confrontation, the truth. Ethan found her near the balcony, drink in hand, city lights behind him. "There you are," he smiled. "Can I steal a minute?" She nodded, silent. He leaned in close, voice low. "You know, I haven't felt this excited about a project since Claire. She was complicated, but talented. Tragic, really." The words didn't sting like they once did. They burned slower, cleaner. "Tragic?" she asked, tilting her head. He nodded. She couldn't handle pressure. Or maybe she just didn't want to succeed. Some people sabotage themselves. Claire set her glass down, turned fully toward him. Or maybe some people get sabotaged. Ethan blinked. She stepped closer. And maybe they don't stay dead. The mask cracked. He stared at her. "You're—" "Yes." His voice dropped to a whisper. "That's impossible." "No," she said, "it's justice." She pulled out a tiny flash drive and pressed it into his hand. "This is a copy of everything. The transfers, the forgeries, the silenced victims, the offshore accounts." He looked around, panicked. "What do you want?" "I want you to feel what I felt. I want you to lose everything you built on my ashes." He tried to smirk. "You don't have proof I did any of it. You confessed on tape 3 nights ago," she said, "at your office. You thought I was just venting, remember? I asked if you ever regretted what happened to Claire. You said, and I quote, 'Regret?' No, she made it easy. All I did was clean up." Ethan paled. She stepped back. "The people you stepped on are rising, Ethan. And they remember." Panic bloomed behind his eyes, but Claire didn't stay to watch him unravel. She walked out of the gala into the night, heart pounding, not with rage, but with release. She had imagined this moment for years, thought it would fill her with triumph, but all she felt was stillness. She didn't need applause. She didn't need revenge to roar. She just needed it to end. And it had. The next morning, headlines exploded. Whistleblower exposes corruption in Coal Foundation. Ethan Cole resigns amid investigation. His face, once a symbol of reform, now floated above accusations of fraud, witness tampering, obstruction of justice. Claire didn't smile when she saw the news. She exhaled. 3 days later, she met Emily at a beach they used to visit as kids. They sat in the sand as the sun rose. Claire hadn't touched a canvas in 8 years. She brought one now. "Do you think I can start over?" she asked. Emily took her hand. "You already did." Claire dipped her brush into the sea and began again. For most of her life, Claire thought survival was about endurance, about gritting your teeth, pushing forward, and pretending the past didn't exist. But surviving isn't the same as healing, and vengeance, no matter how justified, doesn't fill the holes people leave behind. After the dust settled, Claire didn't feel victorious. She felt empty, because the truth was, Ethan wasn't just a villain in her story. He had been a mirror, reflecting her need to be seen, to be loved, to be validated. And when that mirror shattered, it forced her to look at herself. Really look. She saw a woman who had given everything to everyone except herself. She saw someone who once created beauty from pain and forgot she had the power to do it again. Justice had come, not in fire, not in fury, but in clarity. And in that clarity, Claire discovered something she had lost long before Ethan destroyed her: her voice. Not the one used in courtrooms or whispered in dark rooms, but the one that came through her hands, her colors, her brush. It was never about revenge. It was about reclaiming something no one could fake or forge. It was about remembering who she had always been, even when the world forgot. Claire Whitmore no longer existed in public records, but in the quiet corners of the art world, her name began to resurface, not attached to scandal, but to powerfully intimate work, signed only as C.W. She moved to a coastal town in Oregon, quiet and windswept, where no one asked too many questions. There, she opened a small studio with high windows and no plaque on the door. People came in curious, left changed. Her paintings spoke without needing explanation. They told stories of rebirth, of grief carried gently, of silence that wasn't empty, but sacred. Emily visited often. They didn't talk much about the past. Some wounds didn't need reopening. But when they did speak of it, it was without bitterness, just understanding. Claire never reclaimed her old identity, never gave interviews. When the press tried to track her down, she vanished again, on her terms this time. She mentored young women artists quietly, helped them navigate a world still so quick to take and slow to believe. She never said what she had survived. She just listened, and sometimes listening was enough. What she gave the world now wasn't revenge. It was truth translated into color, and that, she decided, was a legacy worth leaving behind. What would you do if the world erased your name? If someone you loved turned your life into a lie and walked away smiling? Claire Whitmore chose to disappear, to let the world believe she was gone. But she didn't vanish out of fear. She vanished to find the strength to come back and take back her voice. Not everyone has the chance to rewrite their story, but maybe you do. Maybe there's something inside you that the world tried to silence. A truth, a memory, a voice no one wanted to hear. So now we ask you, if you had one chance to return, not just to survive, but to truly live again, what would you do with it? Would you seek justice? Or would you choose peace? Let us know in the comments. Share your thoughts, your stories, your truth. And if this story moved you, inspired you, made you think of someone you love, don't keep it to yourself. Share it. Subscribe. Help us give voice to the stories that deserve to be heard. Because sometimes the most powerful revenge is remembering who you really are and never letting anyone take that away again.